decorations. Many were outpatients from Bethesda Naval Hospital, recovering from wounds so horrible that we made jokes to ease the tension of their presence among us. The statistics for friendly forces were no more encouraging. In Vietnam, demeaning labor, boredom, and bitterness led to drinking, drug abuse, and fights in the rear, while in the bush, arduous small unit activities were at once traumatizing and devoid of measurable success. In the words of one Marine general, the bush appeared to sap the souls and the spirit of the men. In some strife-torn units, officers faced the daily threat of assassination. It was not enough simply to be vested with the authority of rank. The small unit leader had to earn the respect of his troops merely to survive. And no one, officer or enlisted, wanted to be the last unfortunate son to die in Vietnam. But the violence of the late 60s was not confined to the battlefields of Vietnam. It was rampant on the streets of our republic as well. The period 1965 to 75 was one of the most tumultuous in our nation's history. With the advent of television news, the war became a media event. Everyone was involved, made to feel at risk, vulnerable to tragedy. People took to the streets all across the country demanding an end to compulsory military service. "Hell no, we won't go," and "Ho ho Ho Chi Minh" became mantras of the era. People's wars, the avant-garde movement of the time. Liberalism's heroes were such men as Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Mao Zedong, and Ho Chi Minh, leaders of the enemy camp. Protests in the United States and around the world were led by student activists from the nation's universities, the same universities that spawned the young leaders of the armed forces upon whom the scorn of the nation was heaped. In fact, the most vexing moral question confronting the graduating college seniors of the day was to serve or not to serve in the armed forces of the United States. The decision, once confronted, became the comprehensive final exam in moral courage for young men of the 60s. It was a question of core values, patriotism, and moral courage. The system was there, riddled with loopholes for any who took the time or had the intelligence to investigate. In many quarters, it was considered smart to avoid, evade, even cheat the system. Most simply let fate deal their hand, as the system intended. The decision changed us, those who served and those who did not. After 20 years, the moral issue is blurred in the body politic, but there is still a dichotomy. Those who chose not to serve did no wrong, for the law of the land did not require them to go in harm's way. They had only to take their chance and do their duty if they were called. In fact, of the 35 million or so young men eligible for the draft during the war years, only about 10%, 3,500,000, actually endured the experience in any branch of service. But for each principled young man who chose to avoid or evade his duty, another, perhaps less privileged, went in his place. And while the vast majority of the young people who were called, by patriotism, economic necessity, or the draft, to serve in the armed forces during these years never saw an enemy or fired around in anger, some did. Some died. Many were maimed. All returned to a country devoid of empathy, changed forever by their experience. Today, it is common for men who stepped aside when faced with the call to arms in the 1960s to set themselves out as the right choice to lead America into the next century. They seek the trappings and power of political office with the same self-righteous conviction and deceit with which they sought to avoid the hazards of military service in their youth. The self-serving conviction that enabled them to shirk their responsibility and circumvent the law of the land in the 60s still permeates their values today. The success of such men on the contemporary political stage suggests that we, as a society, have learned nothing from our sacrifice. I hope that this is not so. I hope that America will choose its next generation of leaders from among those reluctant warriors of the 60s who, in the tradition of their nation's forefathers,